Hey guys, hey, it's Whiskey, and here I am. It's giving Whiskey Nice podcast, but I assure you that it is not. I've been really pressed to do this video for a while. It's just taken me a while to get settled in. I am in temporary housing space, i.e., my parents' house. So it's taken me a second to get comfortable doing the virtual stuff here, being like, oh my God, can they hear me? What are they thinking? What's and just in my head about it. But I finally like gained some momentum and I went out of my way to put on a decent dress. Shout out to Rainbow and put on some makeup. So I was like, okay, let me get some things done that needed to be did. And this is one of them. I've been really excited about this video because I'm super pressed about all of the healing stuff and some of the major healing work that I've been doing. I love to talk about it just in case it helps people. And for the most part, it feels like I'm just kind of like pushing randomness into the atmosphere. But every once in a while, I'll get a message from somebody and they'll tell me that it's really helped them. So that's always cool. But I think for me, it's just helpful for me to kind of track my progress and to put in video form all the stuff that I kind of think about, have been studying. And this is one of the things that I talk about ad nauseum, or I did. I stopped because I think I was getting on people's nerves, but it's just like such a fascinating thing for me. And the title of today's video, which could probably be filed under more so the Stay Woke series than anything else. But I want to talk about healing masculine energy, which is an interesting title, right? But I'm all about the masculine, feminine energies. That has been like a catalyst for a lot of my healing, realizing that I have both wounds, realizing that I had an imbalance of both of the energies within me, and trying to figure out how to work that out within myself so I can soften back into myself. I was talking to a friend on my Instagram live the other day, and he was kind of mentioning some of the stuff because we're like churchy people, right? That's how we grew up. And he was mentioning how he was looking up the stuff that we're not supposed to look up. And I had to admit to him, as much as I'm like, so, I'm always talking about God these days because I just had to get like real serious about what I believe. I might do a video on what I believe actually, because I think I'm in the creative arts world and everyone is generally spiritual, but they don't really talk about what they believe, what specific God. And I had to just get to a place where I have to be specific about what I believe. But I did tell him in this conversation that it was actually through some new age concepts that led me eventually back to God, Jesus, Holy Spirit. And as I was getting into the new age, I realized that a lot of it was based on biblical concepts. And one of the major things that brought me back to God, back to the accountability of what it is to be a Christian, a follower of Christ, not necessarily categorizing myself as Christians of today, but basically it was the understanding that God is a spirit. And I did not think about this until I was more into like Jake Woodard and kind of these awakening coaches, and something about it felt spiritual, it felt right, and it felt like it made sense. But then getting into like the works of R.C. Blake's and I even recently saw that T.D. Jakes did a breakdown on this, and it's basically the concept that the realization that God is a spirit and that man and woman were made in his image. So God has both energies. God is both masculine and feminine energy. And for me, that was something that helped me return back to my peace in my place with understanding who God is and what God wants from me. Is I was really kind of suffering under the patriarchy. I was really feeling like women were cursed and that being here sucks, and I don't know how I'm going to make it under these systems, how I'm supposed to show up in the world, and feeling like this is not something that God understood because he was more, a patriarchal being. But all of that is nonsense. That's just kind of how we conceptualize God, and how we push the religious narrative, but realizing that oh, God is a woman, God understands, God is both, God is more than these things, and overstands the plight of what it is to be here and to exist as a Black woman in this space. I think I am also super adamant about talking about femininity, what it has been for me to soften into my femininity and to recalibrate and balance, because I um I realize that's something I have feminine wounds, and that's something that I've been suppressing is my femininity. And when I decided to become more empowered, to become more bold in who I was, I took away my softness. I took away a lot of my feminine mannerisms and the way that I showed up, and I just focused on, this boss chick stuff, this I run stuff, and I'm independent, and I am. And I do, but two things can be true in there in working on the balance of that, and not even the balance. Sometimes I am balanced. Sometimes I do have to function more in my masculine. But for the most part, I'm a feminine core woman, and I feel mainly at home when I'm resting in that. So, just the journey of how do I want to show up in my authenticity? Who do I want to be? How do I get back to myself? That's something that I really had abandoned for a while, and just doing that work of softening into who I am has been super helpful for my healing journey. And I just like to share about it because I think that the gimmicky stuff is that they're teaching women how to pretend to be feminine or to take on feminine traits in order to find a man, and it has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with men. It has nothing to do with dating. It has nothing to do with anyone other than myself. It shouldn't have anything other than to do with yourself and discovering who you are. And then whatever blessings come from that, let the chips fall where they may. But I am just so adamant about doing these videos, about talking about it ad nauseum, so people know that it is not for the reasons that they think it is. It's actually just been a very helpful thing for me. And I want to talk about healing masculine energy because I think throughout this journey, I have struggled with both my feminine wounds, both my masculine wounds, as far as like my feminine wounds being like feeling like I'm too much, that I don't have a voice, that I can't have a voice, that I'm so restricted in the way that I show up, that I'm not free, that my creativity was staunched with imposter syndrome and anxiety and all of those things. And then, the masculine wounds is just like the despair of what it is to have to show up for myself, to have to pay bills and do certain things. And I just realized very recently how these things are tied together. And a lot of it had to do with body work, getting back into my body, stopping, the business of dissociating from myself. Once I started working on my body, once I started like making sure that I exercise and take care of myself, then I became more cheerful about the physical stuff. And I kind of did this little thing in my Instagram stories, I think it was last winter, about cheerfully doing for yourself. And I didn't realize at the time, but I was touching on healing masculine energy. And I'll talk about it internally and a little bit externally. But internally, for me, I was triggered by last winter this comedian who I actually really like. And I just was so annoyed by it when winter came and we had some snow, and the first thing that people want to say, the first thing that men start making jokes is like, oh, you strong independent women, like who's going to scrape off the snow on your car, and who's going to do this. And that's always the thing, like if I'm in my neighborhood, I had a car with a really bad battery, and whenever I would be like jumping my car or scraping snow off my car or taking out the trash, here comes some man asking me where my dude is to help me with that. And it was such an annoying thing until I became a person who like to cheerfully do for myself. At a certain point in the lower level of consciousness, I hated this stuff. I hated carrying my own groceries. I hated going to the grocery store. I hated taking out the trash. I hated doing these things that we gender assign to men. And I realized that one of the reasons I did hate that is because every time you do it, here comes some dude asking you, oh, you ain't got no man to do that for you. No, I don't. I don't need a man to do that for me. And I think that when you hear women, when society hears women say that, they immediately go to, oh, she's masculine and she'll need no man, and then men go in this whole like y'all act like y'all don't need us, without understanding their role in this, without understanding that whenever you do something that doesn't have anything to do with a man, here comes a man talking about how you don't have him and pointing it out and making it seem like you are in a deficit because a man is not there. And on top of just feeling like I was in a deficit because that was society, how society makes you feel, because of loneliness, and feeling like, wow, like taking out the trash, I just hate it so much. I hated it extra because I had no man, and it's just like the stigma that comes with it. So when the comedian kind of mentioned this and everybody's like laughing in the comments about independent women, I just had the realization because I was at a different place in my healing, and the realization was that I have to be an independent woman. I can't wait around for a man to come save the day because I have children and I have to raise them and I have to make decent money and do things independently so that I can take care of my household. It is not a slight to any man. It is not a rebellion. It's just what is. It's just the reality of life. And because we're in a capitalistic society, I have to do well at my job. I have to make money at my job. It's not to crap on any dudes or to be like, oh, I'm making all this money and he has to bring this. I don't care about that. I care about making a decent living for myself and my girls. But then you enter all of these rhetorics that are happening. People don't make accommodations for reality, for just what is. And I think that's what helped me wrap my mind around like, this is just what is. It doesn't matter whether I'm single or have somebody. If the trash needs to be taken out, I have to take it out. If I have to go somewhere and there's snow on my car, I'm the one who has to scrape that off. These are just facts. That is what is. So when the comedian posted about this, I was like, how do I not go on a rant? How do I make this like a helpful thing? Because I love my rants, but what does it edify to do that all the time? So I was thinking to myself, like, oh no, it's just like cheerfully doing for yourself. And my mindset about it is so different now. If something needs to be done, then it is up to me to do it as the person who runs my household, as the person who drives the car. If there's snow in the car, I'm the person who has to wipe that off. And it's not, there's no problem with that. There is no issue with that. It's no rebellion against anything. It's just kind of what is. And when I change my mindset to this is the adult thing that I have to do to move forward with my life, to get through my day. If I want to use the car, then I have to scrape the snow off the car. These are just facts. This is just the activity that has to be done if I want to move the car. So it's kind of like being practical in my thinking without putting my emotions into it. And I think that's kind of like how society is set up, is for us to put all these extra expectations on things that don't need to have extra expectations on them, like taking out the trash, carrying your groceries, or doing things for yourself. This is kind of what it is to be an adult and to contribute to this world and to get things done. Getting things done is considered in the masculine. That's considered like the actionable steps, and there's always somebody to swoop in and be like, oh, where's your man at? He can do this for you. It's like, no, I don't have one, and no, I don't want to be in an emotional position where I feel like I need someone to do the labor in my life. So I end up accepting a low vibrational relationship because I need a worker to take out the trash for me. Instead, it's like, what is the mindset? Changing your mindset to be like, this is the rules that we engage in, this is kind of what being an adult is. And I'm being an adult, and that's fine. And being cheerful about it, feeling accomplished about it. Like, yes, I took a bubble bath and I went shopping and I danced and I hung out with friends and I took out the trash. Like all of these things can be true and they don't take away from anyone's femininity to do these things. And some of them for me, I do consider it being in my masculine energy, learning the business of what I do, not just tying it to creativity, but being like, okay, I have a monthly open mic, I'm running a business, I need to look at the numbers. I need to look at the steps that I need to take to make this successful. I need to be cerebral. I need to learn things. I need to think about what I'm doing. I have to be decisive in those things and I have to be about my business. I have to be shrewd on some level. And it's like, I enjoy doing these things because they are tied to my business, and the business allows me to be a creative. And while that stuff is in my masculine energy, I think I just needed to find the balance of not operating there too much. There is a way that I have taught myself to do all the stuff that is considered masculine energy and do a lot of that beforehand, before behind the scenes, and then when I'm on site at the show to turn things over and do things where I feel more comfortable in my feminine core, where I can soften, open, and be loving and welcoming to people. And I think that it's been interesting for me to navigate these wounds. I've had a lot of wounds with not feeling safe with masculine energy. And I think that's because of a lot of my relationship trauma in the past and feeling like men are not safe. But I didn't think that that was tied to not respecting or honoring the masculine energy within myself. So basically, I was so depressed when it came time to like grow up and do things, when it came time to make decisions, when it came time to, lift heavy things and take care of business. I was just like so down on myself about it. I didn't want to do it. And it's basically because I felt like there was a deficit in my life. I felt like someone had to come rescue me and do these things for me. And it didn't occur to me like, no, you do these things for yourself. And through the deep healing work of realizing and thinking about what it is to self abandon, what it is to think you have high self esteem and love yourself, but then realize you don't, because you're not doing simple things like taking care of your business. That's when I realized, okay, what does it look like to fill the deficit, to fill in the blanks and the holes that I feel like this rescuer is going to come in and do? Like, what exactly would I want that person to do? And looking at that list, I'm realizing I can do this stuff for myself. It's just that I don't want to because I'm so depressed, because I've been so socially conditioned to believe that I need a man to do these things for me. And it's just so ridiculous because taking out the trash, carrying my own groceries, and like paying my taxes and stuff, and taking care of that business, like I'm totally capable of doing that. I think also it is, while I'm capable of doing it, it is a lot. It's a lot to be a single mother, to not have a counterpart that is helping with certain things, and to feel like you have to do it on your own. And forever, or not forever, but recently, as I like early on in the healing journey, I just came to the realization that you're not going to do everything perfectly, and you're going to have to figure out where the ball is just going to be dropped, and you're just going to have to figure it out. So I think I've been operating under that for a while, and now that I've done the major clearing up of the cobwebs, as far as like being in intense therapy and just like rooting up trauma and processing it through and out of my system, now I'm realizing that I have more mental capacity to take on more. And a lot of the more that I've taken on is just like being responsible about myself and figuring out the masculine parts. So that has been the healing masculine energy. I think in absorbing all the new age content. It's been really interesting because they're always talking about conscious relationships and stuff. And if you want to get whimsical and into the romantic things of it, you think like, oh, that would be really cool to have a conscious man come along and we have this really like high vibrational relationship and do all these things. But it's like, no, I wasn't healed to the point to even accept or receive that in my life. And I still had, these walls up when it comes to any masculine energy. So I had to learn like what it looked like to heal that. I wasn't really sure how to go about it. And I think it's just one of those things that naturally happen is that as I started working on taking care of myself, I started meeting people who wanted to take care of me. For example, like I've always been one of those women like men would slam the door in my face. They're not holding doors. They're not buying drinks. They're not, treating me like I'm dainty or feminine or someone to protect or provide for. And it was just like this, I had this real stink air about it because I was really bothered by it. And then once I stopped caring and just started doing things for myself and kind of walking in that power, I was surprised about how, like, if I'm carrying anything, a piece of paper is like, you got that? You need some help? So it's interesting how I started working on healing my own masculine wounds, and then that started to attract more healing masculine energy around me externally. And I think the difficulty in my work now is learning how to receive that, learning how to receive and understand that not everyone is a terrible person. Not everyone is part of this whole manosphere thing where they hate Black women and hate single moms and feel like we should all be subservient and suffer under their submission or whatever it is that they're talking about. But there are people out there who want to see women win, who want to see us flourish, and don't want to see us with our walls up flinching at the sight of any man because we've just been so traumatized and hurt. There are people, and I think God has been revealing this to me, especially recently, that there are Black men out there who are doing the work. There are men out there who are doing the work to pour good into the world so that women don't have to walk around so scared all the time. We don't have to walk around scared and fearful. One thing I'm learning is how to walk in my power, even though intimate partner violence is a thing, Black femicide is a thing, but learning what it is to walk in my power anyway, to rely on a higher power for my protection, and the understanding that there are men out there who are still protective, but also not being naive, understanding that Black femicide is a thing. So just making wise decisions about where I am. And there's no way that you can bet it. There's no way that you can control what's going to happen to you. But there is a way that you could not live in fear. And there's a way that you can pour in respectful feminine energy into the world so that it's not always coming from a everyone is trash, niggas are trash situation. So for me, it has been quite the journey learning what it is to heal my masculine wounds, to learn how to trust myself, to take care of myself, to be a decisive person, to show up for me, and to stop waiting around for someone to rescue me. I think that moving into a more empowering mindset when it comes to that has helped my discernment a lot as well because I know who's not going to take care of me the way that I take care of me. And it helps me to just kind of realign or move away from people. And if I don't do it, it certainly happens because that's what happens when you move under God's protection. Sometimes He removes people from your life. And when it happens, it's a devastating thing. But you're just like, okay, I do not see this happen, but I'm trusting and I see more in the situation now that I am out of it and it's okay if that did not align with where I'm trying to go. I think that it is definitely worth it to look into if you are on a healing journey to look into what does it mean to have feminine wounds, what does it mean to have masculine wounds, and what does it look like to actively do the work of healing those things, and healing those parts of you so that you can learn to respect the opposite sex more, I think is a thing that I have been working on. And another thing, just kind of as much as I was a victim of a lot of things in relationships, I cannot dwell in the victim mindset because there are things about me that had me aligning in these situations. And I realized that I kept aligning with men who like low key hated women, even though they touted otherwise. And the ugly, ugly thing I had to sit with myself about was that, like, I low key hated men. I low key was fearful of men, and I just was not ready to admit that there was, I just, I think it was probably more fear than dislike, but the fear, I guess, bled into dislike because I realized that I was just uncomfortable, and that made me develop this subconscious dislike for men. So whenever I aligned with men who low key didn't like women, I didn't understand it, and then I understood, it's like, oh, I'm aligned with people who are treating me how I see the situation. If I'm in super trouble if I have low self esteem and I don't like myself, and I secretly have this disdain for men, I'm going to attract men who have a disdain for women and who also don't like me and also don't like themselves. So together we make one super low vibrational couple of morons. So I'm just kind of working on what it is to be a mature adult, to be more cerebral, to be a thinker in this season and be really intentional about how I show up in the world, about how I do my healing work, and how I process these things. And I would just say that healing masculine energy is a thing. It's something that I found within me. It is something that I received from God. Being under His protective covering has felt good. I think that for me, especially with the Black femicide numbers, I've always worried about physical safety. And it's like you can't worry about that too much, but you have to worry about it. And that was a large catalyst for getting me to moving back to God as well, was just like, I need divine protection. I got to call in the big guns. There's no way, there's nothing I can do on this earth to protect them enough. Even if I got a gun, went to some classes, whatever, it would still not be enough for the unpredictability that is this world. So moving into divine protection has been moving under the sovereign will of God. That is the contract, that is the understanding, is that I will exist under the sovereign will of God, and under that sovereignty, I am able to regain my own sovereignty, and that gives me the power to show up the way that I do, and to do all of this healing work that is bringing me back into a space of understanding and appreciating life more, minus the depression, minus the empty feeling that I need someone to fill that void. And I think showing up without those holes feels a lot better than how it was showing up before. So there's the healing masculine energy and feminine energy that comes from God. There's the healing masculine energy that is in myself. We all have it, leaning into or strengthening mine without over leaning into it too much, without going into boss chick rhetoric. I can do it all by myself, but finding the balance between what feels soft to me, speaking up for my needs, having a voice in rooting down into my creativity and doing all the things I love that help me feel connected to my feminine core, but not shying away from when it's time to hop in my masculine and take care of business. So that has been an interesting journey of balancing between the two. And I have to say, it feels good to be doing this work, and it's so, so important. I really think that people should look into it if you're on a healing journey. It might just burst some things wide open for you. And I really hate that we live in a society that makes everything about courting, if you do your healing work and you align with somebody who makes sense for your life and you want to enter into a romantic thing, fine. But it really should be for you. It should be about how you want to show up in the world and your power. It should be wanting a mindset and a lifestyle change and just discovering the good things and parts of yourself that you brainwashed away, and you have to unlearn some things. There are some societal things that we push, especially when it comes to women. And what does it look like to fight against those stereotypes? What does it look like to choose what you want? And I think for me, the thing has been, you are not a boss chick. You are capable of running businesses. You are capable of doing this art thing. You are more than capable. You are blessed in it. And but also, you don't have to do it in the way where you're like smashing the competition. Everybody knows you're a boss chick and you get things. No, it's just like I want to come into the arts world from a feminine perspective. Everything I do, I want it rooted into love. I want to make sure that I'm pouring love, inclusivity, and welcoming a community into the arts community if I'm going to be in it. It can never be about smashing the competition. It could never be about competition in general. It can never be about any of those things that are meant to drive us in a capitalist society. Unfortunately, it can't even be about money for me as much as I would like it to be. Um, it has to be about the love. It has to be uh, a space for me to show up in my softness, to show up in my authenticity. And yeah, so being able to do this work has helped me in so many avenues. And I'm just like thankful to have been able to do it, and to have been able to discover it. So I may do a video about what I believe just so everybody knows. And so I make sure that I am witnessing, because I said that the whole thing with this healing journey is I started to feel it, as I started to feel the trauma leaving my body, and I came to an understanding that I was about to heal into a totally different person. I was like, well, this is part of it, that you have to tell the story. And part of the story is, what I believe in how God has been so integral in this entire journey, and the joy and the peace that I get to feel. And it's like, oh, it's so much bigger than what I thought it was. So here we are. And I know, yeah, I just feel like it's a complete like 180 from where I used to be, the stuff I used to talk about, and it still feels, it doesn't feel foreign to me. It feels natural to me to talk about. I just, now I'm gonna lose some folks because I feel like we're in a day and age where like, Christianity, following God is not the sexy thing to do, but I just kind of left all that behind, and I want to enjoy my time here. I want to learn what it is to actually like be here. And yes, I have been low vibrational and, functioning in a mindset that's just had me dissociated for years. So it's nice to be back on the ground. And, I was studying a lot, looking for a lot, and seeking God a lot. And I did kind of like stumble back to Him through a lot of New Age concepts. And I think once I tested all of the stuff that I was gravitating toward, a lot of it is biblical, a lot of it is biblical concepts that help me root down to like, oh, this is why this resonates to me. And definitely the masculine energy, feminine energy things is one of them. I think that it's just helped me get back to the core of who I am, and it feels unpopular, right? Because you want to be somebody more, interesting or whatever. But no, I'm a feminine core woman, and I like what I like. Not to say you get to define what that means for you, but I know where I feel comfortable, and it helps me to keep a foundation of how I want to show up in the world, and it helps me to ground back down when I'm doing the most, when I'm working too much, when I'm riddled in anxiety. I know exactly the things that I need to move it along to feel better. So it has been a journey. I'm an advocate for this stuff because it has nothing to do with men. It has nothing to do with opposite sex or trying to be better for them. It all comes back to your personal healing journey. And in spite of what society says and the pushback against doing this work and what it means, and all the awakening coaches who make it about like finding a conscious partner or whatever, it has nothing to do with that. For me, it's about understanding who God is, understanding what it means to be a reflection of God, and understanding how to tap into the inner parts of you to help make sure that you remain balanced. So I will probably keep talking about this work and less with my friends because I know I've annoyed them with it, but I'll do videos here and there just to talk about new revelations and stuff that have come of it because I think it's been helpful for me. I hope it's been helpful for you. And this has been a very short video. I'm super proud of myself. But this has been a short video on healing masculine energy. I hope you enjoy. Peace.